These are the most insane punishments of ancient Africa. In July, Sierra Leone became the 23rd African nation to do away with the practice of executing criminals by hanging. Although the death penalty is being used less often throughout the continent as a result of the united efforts of human rights organizations and governments, it can still be found on the statute books of many more nations because of the powerful colonial history it carries. So, what would it have been like in ancient Africa? If you want to know about it, follow this video till the end. Murder, adultery, and theft of private property were examples of community crimes in ancient Egypt. Bribery, treason, and theft of public property were examples of state crimes and offenses against religious organizations. The first offense we talk about, murder. The ancient Egyptians used the death penalty for both murder and manslaughter out of reverence for and protection of the sacredness of human life. In order to ensure the continued non-violence of the death sentence, an example had to be created. The death penalty was reserved for premeditated murder, and in some cases, psychological sanctions were deemed more severe than execution. For instance, if a father killed a child, the father's body would be tied to the victims for 3 days until the moment of decomposition, and the killer would be guarded the entire time. Thieves who break into graves are often eaten by crocodiles or are impaled. For those who weaved with the intent to do harm, there was a kind of warning. Those who had been condemned to death by the populace were supposedly given the option to take their own lives. There was no set punishment for unintentional manslaughter, but the perpetrator was forbidden to return home until he had atoned for his mistake, made sacrifices, asked forgiveness from the victim's family, and compensated them fairly. Whoever covered up the murder or withheld information about it would still have to face the courts and, if found guilty, serve out his sentence in the same location. If someone knowingly killed a religiously significant animal, they may face the death penalty. Second, adultery. In prehistoric Egypt, since committing adultery was seen as a serious sin, the death penalty was enforced to prevent the evil practice from spreading. It's because they're enamored with women that 1,000 men die every year, as preached by Ptah. Since committing adultery with a married woman makes it easier to commit any other sin, it's a felony worthy of death. If a woman commits a crime while she is married, her husband has the option of punishing her, forgiving her, or turning the case over to the court. As the Egyptians thought that this crime originated with the woman, women were put to death while the male received a far lower sentence of 1,000 lashes. Stolen property. Theft of private property resulted in a fine of up to 3 times the value of the items taken, while theft of public property resulted in a fine of up to 180 times the value. After a thorough confession, the accused would be released from his penalty of being beaten by 100 times by hand, taking an oath, or being thrown into the river for crocodiles in full public view. Our fourth offense, taking bribes. The most severe punishment for bribery in state administration was removal from office and a reduction in status to that of a farmer. Government clerks would remove a file documenting the conviction of one of the accused from the court archives because of the prevalence of bribery in the system. During the time of Ramses IX, several criminals were released by paying bribes. These included criminals and grave robbers who had broken into the tomb of a king. An affront to the king. There's never been a more horrible crime than the treason in all of human history. Whatever the accused's social standing, and particularly if the majority of defendants were close to the monarch, the sole sentence inflicted was death. One of King Ramses III's middle-class wives, known only as T, became envious when he named an heir, and she devised a plan to have him killed so that her son, Natawar, might succeed in the kingdom. All of the conspirators, including the wife, were apprehended and given severe sentences. Furthermore, the bodies of those who have committed crimes against His Majesty are not buried, but rather tossed into the river. Cemetery vandalism or grave robbing. The grave robbery was a serious offense in ancient Egypt, particularly if the victim was a member of the royal family. While it was technically a state crime punishable by death, offenders were often spared capital punishment by having their hands cut off or receiving 100 lashes instead if the mummy was left alone. They are protected from attack by special legislation. That's it for today. Let us know in the comment box which of these was the most severe according to you. Like and share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.